Question 11 was probably one of the most complex and most misunderstood questions on the exam. So let's take a look at it because it has several parts and decide what would be the best order to solve each of the parts. 11 says that Chrissy needs to perform the multiplication problem below. Negative 2 times negative 10 times 12 times negative 3. Chrissy believes that the product will be positive since there is an even number of factors. Explain the flaw in Chrissy's reasoning. Determine the product of the multiplication problem. So you have a lot going on here. You have up at the top, this is just a description of another student's work, talking about how there's this person named Chrissy who needs to perform this multiplication problem, and her reasoning, right, is that even before doing the problem, because there's no work in here, she hasn't done any work. She's just reasoning or predicting. So since there are 1, 2, 3, 4 factors, right, an even number of factors, she's just assuming that the answer will be positive. And then you're asked to do, so that's just a scenario. There's no question there, but you do need to understand what's going on. So put yourself in the place of that student who's solving the problem and looks at it and kind of says, hey, look, there's an even number of factors here. So it's just going to be positive. I don't have to worry about the negatives or anything. And then it gives you a question, or it gives you a statement here. It says, explain the flaw in Chrissy's reasoning. The word flaw means that there is a mistake. There is something wrong with that reasoning. So the first thing I want you to do is I actually want you to draw a box around this statement here, and I want you to label it Chrissy's reasoning. Make sure you understand what that is. It's not something you have to solve. It's just someone else's argument, and you're going to explain the flaw in that argument. So first, just kind of highlight that, put a box around it. And then you need to find the mistake in the reasoning. Well, here's the problem with the order that it's given in, and we're stuck with it. We can't change it around, right? How do you explain the flaw in the reasoning if you haven't done the problem yet? It might be a little bit harder. So this is a question where you might want to go out of order. Before you explain the flaw in the reasoning, maybe first you want to figure out the answer to the question to be able to use it as an example to say why this is wrong. I don't know why it's wrong. I haven't done the problem yet. How do I know if it's going to be a positive answer or not? Right? So you might want to skip down here, and you can do that, right? You don't have to go in order if it makes more sense to do this first. So determine the product of the multiplication problem. So we have 4 numbers we're going to multiply. An easy or kind of a way to make this go faster is to multiply 2 of the numbers at a time. So here, I multiplied negative 2 times 10, which is 20, right? A negative times a negative is a positive. And then I multiplied the second 2 numbers. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36, since a negative times a positive is a negative. And then finally, I still have these 2 numbers to multiply, and 20 times negative 36 equals negative 720. All right, well, so there's the answer to the multiplication question. But we still haven't explained the flaw in Chrissy's reasoning. But let's go back up now and see if her reasoning makes sense. Again, she said that Chrissy believes that the product will be positive. Okay, stop right there. Because we just did the problem, and the answer is not positive. The answer is negative. So clearly there's a flaw in her reasoning, right? Just because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 factors doesn't mean that the answer is going to be negative. In fact, it doesn't have anything to do with the number of factors. It has to do with the number of negatives. If there are 3 negatives, right, you know that you're going to have a negative times a positive, which equals a positive. But then here, you're going to have a negative times a positive equal a negative. So when you do your final multiplication, a positive times a negative equals a negative. So it doesn't matter the number of factors, it matters the number of negatives. So First of all, when you're explaining the flaw, you want to start with a strong statement, something like, clearly Chrissy is wrong because the answer is negative, not positive. So this is where I start justifying my answer. My assertion or my claim is that Chrissy is wrong, but then I need to back it up. So I start backing it up and explaining the flaw by saying that Chrissy says the answer was positive, but look, the answer is negative, so it's wrong. There are an even number of factors, that's true, but the answer was still negative. Just because you have an even number of factors, that does not mean the answer will always be positive.